Congress Hall, Philadelphia. Oh, look at this. I want to be a congressperson. I have a balcony. Just nice.
So they use that feather as a pen, but in the feather, so they dip it in something.
Right, everyone, welcome inside Congress Hall. I love giving tours of this building because even though I'm standing up here and you're sitting down, no reason we can't make this more of a dialogue. So if at any point you have a question, please just raise your hand and ask. No reason you should have to walk away with anything unanswered today. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes.
All right. If I had to give a different name for this building, I think I'd call it Independence Hall, the sequel. Because next door in Independence Hall, independence is declared in 1776. They host the Constitutional Convention in 1787. But United States Congress is working in this building under the new United States Constitution from 1790 to 1800. So really, political theory, political reality here in this building. Now my colleague mentioned outside that this is the oldest Capitol building still standing in the country. But do you think you're sitting in original pieces of furniture?
I doubt it.
Probably not. That would be cool though, right? Now, so you all walked into the lower House of Congress where the House of Representatives met. And the chairs that you all get to sit in, as if you were U.S. congressmen, they're replicas. I won't invite you to sit in this chair though, because the Speaker of the House chair is an original piece of furniture.
Ooh,
Yeah.
look at that.
So my colleague also mentioned outside that if you so choose the second floor adventure, you get to see the upper House of Congress or the Senate chamber as well. But just in case you're not a fan of stairs, here's a photo of the Senate chamber. Yes, it is elegant. Just like today, 2 senators to represent each state. They go to DC with 32 senators because during this decade that Congress is here, 14th, 15th, and 16th states get added to the Union. Which ones are we talking about? Want to take a guess? It's not the South, with the exception of 2. Yeah, so
New York.
Kentucky and Tennessee became states.
I know.
I guess when you initially said South, I was thinking Alabama, Mississippi, and those do come in like the 1810s. But Vermont, Kentucky, and Tennessee became states while Congress is here. Yeah. Now it's usually the biggest and baddest pieces of furniture that got saved over time. So the vice president chair upstairs is also an example of an original piece of furniture. So you can imagine the butts of John Adams and Thomas Jefferson in this chair. And both of those men are 2 of 3 important characters for the most significant event that took place here in this building. That's ironically not telling us the story, though, of Congress being here. So here's a story of Congress being here. I want you to picture, in that seating area there, the press and well-dressed civilians. That was the purpose of the gallery. And it was a member of the press that published a cartoon of a fight that broke out here on the House floor in 1798. So here, Representative Roger Griswold and Representative Matthew Lyon were taking out their personal and political differences here on the House floor with a pair of fireplace tongs and a walking cane. At one point, these congressmen are wrestling here on the House floor. Yeah. This is a big deal in the 1790s, so there were multiple cartoons published, there was songs, there was poetry. But with cartoons like these, they can give us important details about how the building was while Congress was here. Sometimes people observe the carpet here. The carpet definitely would have been a luxury item in the 18th century. It's with cartoons like these that we can answer the question, yes, there was carpet while Congress was here. We can also replicate what it looks like based off of the cartoon. Although I did have a 3-year-old tell me, Ranger Lauren, this carpet is circles, this carpet is waffles. Do you think it looks like waffles?
Getting hungry, I know that.
You see it? Yeah. Another great debate to take place here in Congress Hall. Now, I mentioned that significant event that took place here in this building, and it not actually telling us the story of the legislative branch of the United States government, but rather the executive branch. And while that's one big hint, I'll give you a few details of what else happened that day. See if you can figure out why it was such a big deal. The date, March 4th, 1797. This room was packed full of people. And through that door, George Washington will first enter the room, followed by John Adams, followed by Thomas Jefferson. George Washington and John Adams shook hands behind the speaker's platform here, and in about a half an hour, they start to make their way out of the room. Any guesses as to what happened that day? Do you want another detail? Okay.
Hint.
There was a Connecticut journalist who said that as they were exiting the room, he watched George Washington move to the side so that John Adams and Thomas Jefferson could exit first. Passing the torch. Yeah, I like posing that question that way because I get a variety of different responses, but ultimately it was a transfer of power.
First,
A
second, and
change
third
in
presidents.
presidential administrations.
Oh.
Now, I think John Adams would be sad to know that you all don't point out his big day first, right? It was the second presidential inauguration, ultimately, that day. But why that's such a big deal? It's also the first transfer of power to take place here in the United States. And that nature of peaceful transfer of power that's going to set a precedent for future administrations. Yeah.
So no idiots tried to stop it.
No, but I do like to also share that John Adams said that this room, packed full of people, they were without a dry eye in sight. Everyone was crying to watch Washington step down. George and Martha Washington were not crying, though. They were pretty stoked that they got to go back home to Mount Vernon. Yeah.
How many years was Washington president? I should remember.
Sure, no problem. So just like today, one presidential term is 4 years, and he served 2 terms. And he could have kept going. We didn't have presidential term limits until the 1950s. But George was interested in hanging his hat after decades of service. He was not up for that 3rd presidential term. Yeah. So 8 years, 1789, he steps down, 1797. And his second inauguration took place upstairs in the Senate. His first was in New York City. Yeah. Any other questions? I've thrown a lot of information at you.
This is the original building,
Yes.
assuming that the only keeping out of fireplaces.
Yes. There are 6 fireplaces to heat this room in particular. The placement of each fireplace is original. What you see surrounding it, not necessarily. But having many but small fireplaces was a more efficient way of heating the building. So 3 on each wall. Yeah.
Why is Independence Hall more popular than Congress Hall? This seems maybe more important.
I think that's a cool question. And I don't know. I think we should ask more people when they do both, which one they prefer. Because I think giving tours of this building sometimes is more fun, but it's a big deal over there. The birthplace of the United States.
Did it go to Washington DC after here?
It did. So by December of 1800, they moved things down to Washington D.C. Yeah. Now, before I invite you all upstairs, I do like to let you know that someone else has been hanging out with us in bus form. Yeah. So cool connection with Franklin and this building, although kind of a sad one at the same time. He died in 1790, the year that Congress started using this building. So they placed him there as a way to watch over Congress. Because although he's a huge part of the American Revolution, he doesn't get to see it out like many of the other members of Congress did. My favorite thing about Franklin are all of his quotes. So here's one that I'll share of his. You might be able to finish it. Our new Constitution is established and has an appearance that promises certainty. But in this world, nothing is said to be certain, except...
Death and taxes.
So there's the quote in its entirety, except death and taxes.
He spent a lot of time over in Europe.
He did as a
In
diplomat.
France.
Trying to get doctor.
Yep. You got it.
He come back here to participate in this part.
Yeah, so he is a part of both the Second Continental Congress that declares independence and the Constitutional Convention. It's those interim years that he's in France and trying to get money and ultimately keep the support of the French. That story actually continues upstairs with 2 items that you can see. All right, soon the next group is gonna come in, so if you wanna keep the conversation going, we can upstairs. There are 34 of them. If that doesn't sound fun, you can use the tablet in the corner. Just come find me if you have questions upstairs. I don't have a
Where is
talk or
it?
anything. When you're ready to exit the building though, you'll be using those doors there. All right.
How do you get upstairs?
On the other side of these doors.
I thought that was the upstairs. Pretty big building. Emily, go to the
Oh, there.
I didn't think it was green.
Yeah. And they know that it was this hue of green because during restoration work, they found a splotch of that green paint underneath. Yeah. But green was a common color in government buildings. Yeah.
And the curtains? What about the curtains?
Yeah, the green and red is intentional because that's how it was when The Senate was here.
Rug design?
What they know about the original rug in the Senate was this symbolism here in the center. The national seal surrounded by individual state seals. But Spain actually made this rug for us in the 1950s.
Ah, so those,
Yeah.
are there 13 circles?
There's more than that, and then this bottom center one here is not representative of a state. I can, if you're interested in one over the other, I can grab the binder, but I don't have them memorized. Yeah,
Now, you say this building is older than Independence Hall?
it's not. So construction is completed for this building in 1789 versus Independence Hall, that's completed 1753.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When I said oldest though with this building, what I was probably referencing was this being the oldest Capitol building in the country.
Okay, because the independence was declared and the Constitution signed first, and then this building was created?
Yeah, it's actually during the Constitutional Convention that they were digging out the basement for this building, but not to be Congress Hall, to be the Philadelphia County Courthouse. That was the original purpose of this building. And when Congress moved to DC, this did serve as the county courthouse for about 100 years.
Wasn't the Capitol in New York for a short time too?
It was a year and a half. And that building, as it stands today, it's a federal hall. It's a reconstruction because I believe there was a fire. It's appropriate to do that outside, not inside. Sound like a plan? In the 1800s. Yeah.
Lovely.
I heard there's a tradition that in Congress they're only allowed to drink milk.
What? Well, they're in the conference room?
Yeah.
I've
Is
never
that-
heard that before.
I was wondering if there was, because there was too many brawls or something going on here.
Interesting.
I would think water, unless the water was probably gotta get pure.
Yeah, mixed with Kahlua.
You'll notice in some of the committee rooms, tumblers with fake limes next to it. I know that that was a common practice. And tobacco, that would have been happening in these spaces too. Yeah.
Milk?
I've never, I'll need to look into that. That's very
Apparently
curious.
there's
That's
Congress
interesting.
Recently, with their lactose intolerant, they're trying to get the rules changed.
So of course blinds probably weren't embedded back then, so would these windows have had shutters or something?
Venetian blinds were,
Oh, were back then? Okay. So they've been a long time. Cool. And the square nails.
yeah.
So presumably there's central heat and air conditioning now hidden in the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and they're actually redoing the HVAC system of the entire block because it's more than 50 years old. To prepare for the sesquibicentennial, the 250th. Yeah.
Yeah, 26.
Mm-hmm.
So how are the senators seated?
So by state, and I think I have the seating chart over here, but that's something else that I don't remember off the top of my head.
In alphabetical order or?
I would assume by when they became states, actually. But you know what they say about assuming?
Yep.
Now, for the house downstairs, that's actually pretty interesting because there's only one seating chart that we have from the 1790s, and it was done by a representative that was honestly probably bored and just decided to jot down the names of where everyone was sitting. And there's no continuity with state, or, of course, political parties aren't fully established yet in the 1790s, but they also weren't sitting by political party. So that's not helpful. All that shows me is that,
Where the desks were.
yeah, and then the yellow ones are original chairs. The four closest to us technically are reproductions.
Or what?
Oh, here's the carpet seals with the individual states. Yeah, if anybody wants to see that. That's just done by hand.
there a gallery above us?
There is. There wasn't always though for the Senate, and the public did not care for that. So in 1795 they installed one,
Don't fall down.
but the gallery for the Senate was invitation only. Yeah.
Enclosure, it's not a.
Must be right above here.
Who's this painting behind me?
Oh,
It looks like a monarch.
I said that the
can't go up
story of
there.
French continued upstairs. So we've got King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. And that will be pre-French Revolution for the both of them. But because of the aid during the Revolutionary War, there were portraits of them here.
Oh, you can see the back
Yeah,
end.
King Louis XVI.